I'm Marcus Thompson, and in 15 years leading rescue operations across East Africa, I've encountered thousands of wild animals in distress. But there was one moment, just before dawn in the Maasai Mara, when I found a trapped leopard, whose reaction to seeing me shattered every barrier I'd built between professional duty and emotional connection. If you've ever experienced that moment when an animal looked at you with complete trust, despite having every reason to fear humans, you'll understand this story. Share in the comments about times when animals showed you unexpected grace. These moments remind us why conservation work touches our hearts so deeply. This happened 14 months ago during an emergency call about a leopard caught in an illegal snare. What started as a routine trap removal became the most emotionally overwhelming encounter of my career, and the moment that redefined everything I thought I understood about the relationship between humans and wild predators. This is case file number 163, and I'm sharing this story because sometimes the animals we're trying to save end up teaching us the most profound lessons about forgiveness, trust, and the healing power of genuine compassion. Subscribe if you want more stories about the unexpected emotional connections that develop during wildlife rescue operations. These encounters show us that conservation is as much about the heart as it is about science. The emergency call came at 3 a.m. from David Nkedianya, a Maasai conservancy ranger whose knowledge of leopard behavior was respected throughout the region. His voice carried the urgent concern of someone who understood both the immediate danger and the broader conservation implications. Marcus, we've located a female leopard caught in a wire snare near the conservancy boundary. She's been trapped for at least 12 hours, and the longer she remains restrained, the higher the risk of permanent injury or death from stress. He continued, "This isn't just any leopard, Marcus. We believe this is Duma, a mother who's been successfully raising cubs in this territory for 3 years. Her loss would impact not just her own cubs, but the genetic diversity of our entire regional leopard population. Leopard rescues require exceptional expertise and caution. These solitary predators are incredibly powerful, intelligent, and unpredictable when injured or frightened. Any mistake during the rescue process could result in injury to both the animal and the rescue team." I asked David, "What's her current condition from your observations?" "Conscious and alert," he replied, "but showing signs of exhaustion and stress. The snare is around her left rear leg, and she's been unable to free herself despite obvious attempts throughout the night." I assembled our most experienced predator rescue team. Sarah, our veterinarian, had worked with leopards before and understood the delicate balance between providing necessary medical care and minimizing stress on these sensitive cats. Mike's specialized equipment would be crucial for safely approaching and treating a trapped leopard without escalating her panic or causing additional injury. "This operation requires perfect timing and absolute respect for leopard psychology," I explained to the team during our pre-dawn flight. "Leopards are incredibly intelligent and will remember every detail of how we treat them during this vulnerable moment." Sarah was reviewing leopard stress responses and sedation protocols during the flight. "Marcus, the key is approaching this rescue as a collaboration rather than a capture. If we can gain her trust, she'll actually cooperate with efforts to free her." Mike was preparing the gentlest restraint and cutting tools available. "Boss, I've got wire cutters designed specifically for removing snares without sudden movements that might trigger defensive responses from trapped animals." We reached the location just as the first light of dawn was beginning to filter through the acacia trees. David led us quietly through the bush to where the leopard had been located, emphasizing the need for absolute silence during our approach. What I saw when we found her will stay with me forever. A magnificent leopard, her spotted coat dull with exhaustion and stress, lying on her side with her leg twisted in a wire snare that had cut deeply into her flesh. But it wasn't her physical condition that broke my heart. It was her eyes. When she saw us approaching, instead of the fear or aggression I expected from a trapped predator, her expression showed something that shattered me completely. Hope. This leopard, who had every reason to fear humans given that human-made wire had caused her suffering, looked directly at me with an expression that could only be described as pleading. She was asking for help. If you've ever seen an animal look at you with complete trust despite being in a situation where humans caused their suffering, you know how overwhelming that moment of grace can be. Let me know in the comments about your experiences with animals showing unexpected trust. Look at her body language, Sarah whispered, equally moved by the leopard's response to our presence. She's not trying to flee or fight. She understands somehow that we're here to help her. The approach required extraordinary sensitivity. This leopard's willingness to trust us was a gift that demanded we prove worthy of that trust through every action we took. David provided crucial insight. Duma has lived near human settlements her entire life. She's learned to distinguish between humans who pose threats and those who mean no harm. She recognizes rescue intentions. Our rescue plan focused on maintaining the trust she was showing us, while working quickly to remove the snare and assess her injuries. Every movement needed to reinforce her decision to trust. Sarah's approach was masterful. She moved slowly, speaking in soft tones, and positioned herself where Duma could see her hands and equipment clearly. Transparency seemed to increase the leopard's cooperation. "She's actually adjusting her position to give me better access to the snare," Sarah observed with amazement. "This level of cooperation from a trapped predator is unprecedented in my experience." Mike's wire-cutting tools allowed precise removal of the snare without sudden movements that might startle Duma. Throughout the entire process, this magnificent leopard maintained eye contact with me, almost like she was monitoring our progress and expressing gratitude. "Snare removed successfully," Mike reported. "The wound is significant but treatable. She's going to make a complete recovery." Sarah's medical treatment was efficient and gentle. Duma remained calm throughout the cleaning and bandaging process, occasionally making soft rumbling sounds that David identified as contentment rather than distress. "Her trust is actually making the medical treatment more effective," Sarah noted. "Stress hormones can interfere with healing, but her calm state is promoting optimal recovery conditions." The most remarkable moment came when Sarah finished treating Duma's wound. Instead of immediately fleeing, the leopard remained in position for several seconds, looking directly at each team member individually. "She's acknowledging each person who helped her," David interpreted. "This is leopard gratitude behavior. She's memorizing the faces and scents of the humans who saved her life." When Duma finally stood and tested her treated leg, her movement was careful but confident. Before disappearing into the bush, she paused one final time to look back at our team. That glance carried what I can only describe as a promise, that she would remember this kindness for the rest of her life. "Incredible interaction," Sarah observed as we watched her vanish into the thorny undergrowth. "That leopard just demonstrated emotional intelligence and gratitude that rivals any domestic animal I've treated." The follow-up monitoring over subsequent weeks showed perfect healing. Duma returned to successfully caring for her cubs and maintaining her territory. But the most amazing part was her ongoing behavior toward conservation vehicles. Rangers reported that Duma showed unusual tolerance for human presence, almost like she was looking for familiar faces. 3 months later, during a routine patrol, Duma approached our vehicle to within 10 meters, unprecedented behavior for a wild leopard. She sat calmly, made eye contact with me through the window, then continued on her way. Case file, Jaguar 163 completely transformed how I understand the emotional capacity of wild predators. Duma's trust taught me that animals are capable of grace, forgiveness, and gratitude that exceeds what many humans show. I now approach every predator rescue with deeper appreciation for the emotional experience of the animals we're helping. Sarah has incorporated trust-building techniques into all her wildlife medical protocols. This case taught me that the animals we save often give us far more than we give them. But here's what really broke me about that moment. Realizing that Duma's expression of hope meant she somehow understood that some humans cause harm while others provide healing, and she chose to trust us with her life. 6 months later, Duma successfully raised 2 cubs to independence, proving that our rescue not only saved her life, but preserved the next generation of leopards in that territory. Case file, 163 influenced every subsequent rescue we've conducted. It reminded me that wild animals are individuals with complex emotional lives, and treating them with the respect and compassion they deserve often results in cooperation that benefits everyone. Subscribe if you want more stories about the profound emotional connections that develop between conservation teams and the wildlife we protect. These relationships prove that conservation is ultimately about respect and understanding between species. If you want me to share more stories about unexpected animal behavior during rescues, especially cases where wild animals showed remarkable trust, or the amazing long-term relationships that develop, let me know which connection story you'd like to explore next. Your comments help me choose which cases will be most meaningful for understanding the incredible capacity for forgiveness and grace that wild animals can show. Which animal trust story should I share next? Thank you for watching.